Imagine for a moment that the end of the world is closer than you think. Think about how the great catastrophes we hear about might be related to ancient biblical prophecies. How would you feel if you discovered that in some way, the events described in the apocalypse are being reflected in scientific discoveries and situations we are currently experiencing? Are we really closer to the end than we believe? Hello. Welcome to the Gold Bible channel. In today's video, we will address a fascinating topic that raises many questions: the apocalypse and science, a scientific perspective on biblical prophecies. Throughout this video, we will explore how the prophecies of the apocalypse align with current scientific theories and discoveries. Does science have answers to the catastrophes described in the apocalypse? Or are we seeing signs beyond our scientific understanding? Stay with us as we question and reflect on these points. Get ready for content that not only sparks curiosity, but also brings a deep reflection on the future of humanity and the fulfillment of the prophecies. By the end, you may even begin to realize that science and the Bible have more in common than we might think. Have you ever stopped to think if we are really living in the last days? The apocalypse, as described in the Bible, speaks of great catastrophes, wars, and the end of the world. But the question we need to ask is, are the prophecies actually closer to reality than we imagine? When we look at scientific advancements and recent discoveries, we can see an interesting correlation with the prophecies described in the book of Revelation. For example, in Revelation chapter 6, verses 12 to 14, it talks about great cataclysms shaking the earth, such as earthquakes and falling stars. According to science, such phenomena are possible, whether due to geothermal activity like earthquakes or the potential for asteroid collisions. What once seemed like an apocalyptic scenario is now seriously discussed by scientists. Moreover, the acceleration of global warming, the destruction of biodiversity, and increasingly frequent natural disasters are occurring. Are these signs, studied by science, the same signs of the end described in the scriptures? What do you think? Can science give us logical explanations for the events described in Revelation? Or are we just seeing a historical repetition of an ancient prophecy? Leave your opinion in the comments. Do you think scientific discoveries help us understand the prophecies of the apocalypse, or are we dealing with coincidences that seem to align? Climate change is one of the greatest challenges humanity faces in the 21st century. Scientists around the world have been dedicated to studying the effects of pollution, deforestation, and carbon emissions, which contribute to global warming. But what many don't know is that these issues have a direct connection to the prophecies of the apocalypse. In Revelation chapter 8, verse 7, we read about fire, blood, and hail falling on earth. This may sound mystical or symbolic, but when we compare it with current events like massive wildfires, the melting of polar ice caps, and devastating forest fires, this passage takes on a new meaning. Science explains these occurrences as the result of human actions on the planet. But could this just be a coincidence? Climate change can be seen as a sign of the times, something that was already predicted in the scriptures. Is science really ignoring this connection? Or are scientists just trying to solve immediate problems without considering the spiritual implications that the apocalypse warns us about? How do you feel about this? Do you think climate change is a reflection of the fulfillment of biblical prophecies, or is it just a natural phenomenon that science can solve? Share your thoughts in the comments. Recently, we have seen the world shaken by pandemics and natural disasters, and many are wondering if these events are not the signs mentioned in the apocalypse. The book of Revelation speaks of plagues and diseases, as in Revelation chapter 6, verse 8, where a rider is mentioned who brings destruction through pestilence. Science, in turn, offers explanations for these pandemics, such as the spread of viruses, globalization, and the increased interactions between populations. But is that all there is to these crises? When we think about the words of the apocalypse, it seems that we are living in a reality that is more than just a scientific explanation. These events cannot just be coincidences. They may be linked to something deeper. With the current global pandemic, many have started to reflect on what this means on a spiritual level. Is the apocalypse unfolding in our time? Can science explain everything we are experiencing, or is there something beyond our scientific understanding? What do you think about this? Are we living the fulfillment of the apocalyptic prophecies, or is science helping us better understand what is happening? Share your opinion below, as the discussion is crucial. One of the most intriguing concepts of the apocalypse is the mark of the beast. In Revelation chapter 13, verses 16 to 18, we read about the imposition of a mark without which no one can buy or sell. This has always been interpreted in different ways, but today, with the advancement of technology, the concept seems closer to reality than ever before. Technologies such as biometrics, facial recognition, and global surveillance systems have become increasingly common. Many of these technologies are used to monitor, identify, and control the population. Are we heading toward a reality where the mark of the beast is, in fact, a totalitarian control technology? What does science have to say about this? Are we getting closer to this dystopian future? While science discusses the implications of these technologies for privacy and freedom, biblical prophecies already warned us of a future where control would be absolute. How do you see this? Are we approaching a global control system as described in the scriptures? Share your thoughts in the comments, as this is an important reflection for everyone. Artificial intelligence is taking over our world. From virtual assistants to algorithms that govern social media and even decision-making in companies and governments, AI is becoming an essential part of our lives. But could AI, which promises to simplify our lives, also be a force that contributes to the rise of the Antichrist? In Revelation chapter 13, verse 18, the Bible mentions the number 6666, associated with the beast, the Antichrist. Many Bible scholars have interpreted this number as symbolizing something related to control and manipulation. With AI increasingly dominating various aspects of our lives, are we opening the door to a technological Antichrist who controls and manipulates the masses through algorithms? What if the Antichrist is a machine? Science can give us a view of the future, but are we prepared for the spiritual implications of this? What do you think about it? Are we creating artificial intelligence that might have consequences beyond our understanding? Share your thoughts in the comments. Science has shown that the end of the world is a natural process. Astrophysics predicts that in billions of years, the sun will expand and consume our planet. But do the prophecies of the apocalypse also speak of this end? In Revelation chapter 21, verse 1, we see the promise of a new heaven and new earth, a scenario that can be interpreted as either a renewal or a final destruction. These descriptions seem to align with scientific predictions of a gradual end of the planet, driven by the natural evolution of stars. Is the destruction of our planet indeed part of a natural cycle, or will this end be caused by divine intervention? How do science and the Bible intertwine when we talk about the end of times? What do you think about this? Is the destruction of the planet inevitable, or is there something more in the divine plan that science cannot explain? Leave your comment, as this is a profound question involving both science and faith. Have you ever wondered if we are truly living the events described in the apocalypse? The book of Revelation mentions natural cataclysms, such as earthquakes, tsunamis, and storms that devastate the earth in the last days. These phenomena, which once seemed distant from our reality, are now more present than ever. If we look at statistics and reports of natural disasters around the world, we see a significant increase in their frequency and intensity. In Revelation chapter 6, verses 12 to 14, the scriptures speak of a great earthquake that would cause catastrophic changes to the planet, with the sky folding like a scroll and the stars falling to the earth. It is not difficult to realize that we are living in an era of geological instability, with devastating earthquakes occurring in places like Japan and Haiti. Furthermore, catastrophes like hurricanes, tsunamis, and wildfires are becoming increasingly common. Science explains this as a result of global warming and the intensification of climatic phenomena. But could these disasters also be signs of the times as described in the scriptures? The question here is, are we living the apocalypse? Or are these natural catastrophes simply part of a normal cycle of the earth, now exacerbated by human actions? What role does science play in explaining these phenomena? And what can the biblical prophecies teach us about how to interpret these events in a spiritual context? And do you believe that the natural cataclysms we are experiencing are signs of the end times, or are we just dealing with a natural increase in disasters? Leave your opinion in the comments. When we think about the final war mentioned in the apocalypse, many imagine an epic conflict involving supernatural forces in a battle between good and evil. However, science also has its own theories about what could cause the destruction of civilizations. What is becoming increasingly evident is that we are moving toward an era of intense geopolitical tensions that could culminate in a global conflict of catastrophic proportions. The apocalypse describes the final battle at Armageddon, where the nations face each other and forces of destruction are unleashed upon the world. Although this seems like something out of imagination, scientific research warns about the threats of nuclear wars, climate conflicts, and even the risk of humanity's extinction through a global conflict. In times of uncertainty, such as during the Cold War, for example, the fear of a global nuclear war was one of humanity's greatest fears. However, beyond direct wars, scientists warn about the impact of political and environmental crises that could trigger a world war. The desperation for control of natural resources and the growing social inequality in various parts of the world are factors that may contribute to the emergence of conflicts. But what do the biblical prophecies tell us about this? In Revelation chapter 16, verse 16, we are reminded of Armageddon, where the nations align for the final battle. Could this be interpreted as a metaphor for the wars to come, or are we seeing signs that these prophecies are becoming a reality? Does science have the answers to prevent this global conflict, or are we at the mercy of the fulfillment of the prophecies? And you, what do you think? Are we closer to a final war as described in the apocalypse, or are we just witnessing a cycle of political and environmental tensions? Share your thoughts in the comments. While the apocalyptic prophecies paint a scenario of destruction and despair, science offers a more optimistic view, presenting solutions to prevent these events from coming to fruition. Technological innovations such as artificial intelligence, biotechnology, and renewable energies have the potential to transform the future of humanity. But can science really save the world from the apocalypse? If we observe the destruction that humanity has caused to the planet, such as pollution and the depletion of natural resources, it is clear that we are heading toward a global crisis. However, technology offers ways to reverse or mitigate these problems. Renewable energies, such as solar and wind, provide a solution to the climate crisis, while new medical technologies can help prevent and combat devastating diseases. The apocalypse describes a scenario of desolation and suffering, but can scientific innovations change this fate? Or are we simply delaying the inevitable? How can we use technology responsibly to save our planet and avoid the destruction described in the prophecies? It is a delicate balance. Science offers us powerful tools, but the question is, To what extent are we prepared to use them wisely? And what do the scriptures say about our responsibility in the face of these advancements? And you? Do you believe science has the power to save the world and prevent the fulfillment of apocalyptic prophecies? Or are we merely postponing what is destined to happen? Share your opinion in the comments. The responsibility to avoid the end of the world does not solely lie in the hands of external forces such as natural cataclysms or divine intervention, but also in our own hands. What science shows us, often alarmingly, is that human actions are indeed contributing to an apocalyptic future. The apocalypse described in the Bible is often associated with God's judgment, but science warns us about the effects of pollution, deforestation, and climate change that we are creating. In a way, we are creating the end of the world with our irresponsible choices. The increase in greenhouse gas emissions, the excessive use of natural resources, and the destruction of biodiversity are problems that science points to as significant risks for the future of the Earth. By ignoring the warnings from science, are we allowing the fulfillment of the apocalypse to happen? Or by becoming aware of our mistakes and acting to change our behavior, is there still hope to avoid this destruction? The apocalypse, like science, calls us to reflect on our choices. The Bible speaks of human responsibility towards creation and how the abuse of power over the earth would lead to its destruction. Science confirms this, pointing out the consequences of our actions. And you, what do you think? Are we really creating the end of the world with our choices, or is the responsibility in other forces beyond our control? Share your opinion in the comments. When we look at scientific predictions about the future of the planet, such as resource depletion or the possibility of an ecological collapse, the question arises, do these predictions have anything in common with apocalyptic prophecies? Are we truly living in an era where science and religion converge to warn about the end of the world? The prophecies of the apocalypse talk about a devastated land, wars, plagues, and humanity losing its way. Similarly, scientists warn about the consequences of our actions, such as climate change, the scarcity of water and food, and the impact of natural disasters. Are these two visions of the future, one religious and the other scientific, connected in some way? The question is profound. Science offers us a rational explanation for the end of the world, but the scriptures speak of a spiritual and divine end. Are we in some way experiencing the fulfillment of the prophecies, or is it just a coincidence? And you, what do you think? Could scientific predictions and biblical prophecies be saying the same thing? Share your opinion in the comments. The 7 trumpets of the apocalypse are some of the most well-known and feared elements of the scriptures. Each trumpet brings a calamity, and as the Bible tells us, these events are signs of the proximity of the end. But how can we relate these trumpets to what science tells us about the problems of the modern world? Each trumpet, when analyzed, can be seen as a reflection of global problems we are facing. Climate change, natural disasters, wars, and the destruction of the environment. Science warns us about these same problems, just as the trumpets of the apocalypse warn us about the consequences of our negligence and sin. Can the trumpets be seen as a scientific warning for humanity, or are they purely spiritual events with no relation to the physical world? The truth is, when we look at the current signs, we realize that the trumpets could be more than metaphors. They could be a direct reflection of the catastrophes we are living through. What do you think about this? Are the trumpets of the apocalypse sounding in the modern world? Share your opinion in the comments. Well, we've reached the end of this video. And as you can see, the apocalypse and science are deeply intertwined in ways we may never have imagined. Biblical prophecies may seem distant or even allegorical to many, but when we look at the events happening around us, it's hard not to see a connection between the signs described in the scriptures and the global challenges we face. What we are witnessing with climate change, pandemics, technological advances, and geopolitical tensions. Are we really walking toward the fulfillment of the apocalyptic prophecies, or is it just a reflection of our actions and choices? What do you think? Can science be our salvation, or are we destined to live out the predictions of a collapsing world? Does the Bible, by speaking to us about the end of times, give us a warning to change our course, or are we simply watching the end unfold without realizing it? I'd love to hear your opinion on all of this. Leave a comment below and share your thoughts with us. Are we on the brink of a new era where science and faith intertwine in ways we never imagined? Or is it time for us to prepare for what's to come? If you liked this video and the issues we addressed, don't forget to subscribe to our The Gold Bible channel, like this video, and activate the notification bell to be alerted about our upcoming videos. We are always looking for ways to understand the scriptures more deeply and how they connect with the world we live in. Thank you for being with us in this video. See you next time, and may God continue to illuminate your path